Do we know Savannah?
Yes, that's Rich's fiance.
Oh.
She's on the MMP, or the...
She's in the Minecraft chat. She's in the Minecraft group.
Cool. So you all know Savannah. I don't know Savannah.
Yeah.
Oh, KFC made a Cheetos
coated chicken.
Oh, why?
That's like, you know what that is? That's we can make a Dorito taco. We could make Cheetos chicken.
Clearly,
no, you cannot.
So Doritos are fascinating because of how many different flavors there are of Doritos.
Sure.
And how they keep changing it, and how initially it was supposed to be this cheap food that people could eat, like in the 20s or the 30s or something like that. It's an interesting evolution of the snack food.
That is interesting.
And how they got bored, so they just made as many different flavors as possible. Which is a strange parallel to Mountain Dew, because there's 8 billion flavors of Mountain Dew too. I'm obviously using hyperbole there.
You're not wrong.
The epitome of hyperbole.
Did you just missyllable epitome of hyperbolicness? I don't even think that's the right word, but whatever.
I got nothing.
You got nothing?
You got nothing. I got to, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down into a smaller box before there were stars.
Oh, yeah, you should. That game doesn't need to be in that big of a box.
No, it doesn't.
You can put all the dice in a bag, put all the cards in a box.
Yeah. I want to bring it with me to QCC. I'm like, ugh, I don't want to carry a game box with me. I'm like, nor does this game need to be in a game box. It's like Companion's Tale. Companion's Tale is another one where the box is like way bigger than the game needs to be. In fact, I bet you I could stuff.
Yeah, that weird clicking noise is Rich typing.
Okay,
sorry.
No, it's fine. Somebody mentioned it in the chat room.
That noise is firecrackers.
Yes, there may be firecracker noises.
Well, we wanted to celebrate Rich being on the show, so
it's true.
We ordered up firecrackers.
My video is frozen. That sucks.
Yeah. So everybody that's
so
watching,
Rich is just gonna look like very non-animated the whole show.
We tried to put the video of Rich on the stream, but it doesn't seem to be.
You tried. I appreciate the effort.
Yeah, but everybody can hear Rich, which is the important thing.
Yes.
So that is what we require. Is the audio more than the video? Sorry, everyone. We made the attempt.
I try so hard at this.
I'm just gonna close that window capture since we don't need it. And close that since that ain't working. Hangouts, you suck.
That ain't working. That's the way you do it.
There you go. Nice job.
What did you just say?
Bob and I have been making song quotes all night. You've just been missing.
I just missed that one. What did you say?
That ain't working.
That ain't working. And I said, yeah, that ain't working. That's the way you do it.
I don't know what that's from.
You play the guitar on the MTV.
Yeah.
Money for nothing.
Dire
Kicks
Straits
for free.
Yeah. It's not the best Dire Straits song.
No.
Kings of Sultan
Roll
Sultan. Oh.
No. Sultan's a swing.
Sultan's a swing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
Sultan's a swing.
We're at 8 o'clock. Okay, time to start. I'm gonna hit the record. Okay, we're recording. Here we go. 5, 4.
This is the Misdirected Mark Podcast, a podcast about gaming, game mastering, and entertaining you, our listeners. We are explicit, you have been warned, and I'd like to thank Mike Willard for letting us use his music on our show. Now let's pick up those mics and get on with this thing.
Hey, Phil, buddy, you want to go get some coffee?
What?
Oh man, I'd love some coffee.
He's not talking about. I don't think he's talking about coffee. I think he's making a Luke Cage reference.
It certainly was. And on this, the 364th episode of the Misdirected Mark podcast, we're going to talk about street-level superheroes like Luke Cage, Daredevil, who should be Batman, and Batman should be Daredevil. Think about that. Jessica Jones, who might be a jerk, but always does what's right. And Colleen Wing, because really, who cares about Danny Rand? And with that, my name is Chris.
My name is Phil.
I'm Old Man Logan.
And I'm Rich.
Yeah.
Rich Rogers is in the house.
Dun dun dun.
Is it dun 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 or dun dun dun?
Dun, dun, dun.
How's the stinger work? Yeah, there's all kinds of stingers, right?
Yeah.
Rich, welcome to the Misdirected Mark podcast.
Thank you so much for having me on. I'm so excited to finally. It took 363 episodes before I could beat down the doors.
Before we let
join you guys.
Before we let Rich introduce himself, which we will, I just want to say that the Cannon Puncture Show is one of the reasons that this podcast exists. So, because that was one of the ones I was listening to before I decided to start podcasting, which is Rich. I think that's your original show.
Yes, sir.
Am I correct? I'm just so that I'm thinking the right one. Was the Can of Puncture the one that had like the special episodes where somebody would come on and talk about how much they love a certain game?
Absolutely, the Game Advocate
Oh
series
my!
was
I
born on Cannon Puncture.
I always wanted to do that for Underground. Like I wanted to come on and be like the Underground fanboy. Like that was my.
I would have loved to have had you on, Phil. I'm also a big Underground fan.
Yeah.
So that would have been awesome.
Well, I mean, we could just have like do a reverse thing for a Misdirected Mark like bonus episode where like Rich comes on and hosts you to do a Game Advocate.
Game Advocate, yeah.
I'd be open to that.
I'd be down.
It's set a date, my friend.
I'm gonna go get my love letters out of the out of my box set.
Oh, so Rich, the irrepressible Rich Rogers. Would you please introduce yourself and tell everybody out there who might not know who you are?
Sure. My name's Rich Rogers. I'm a podcaster. I started with the Cannon Puncture Show, which was nominated for a Diana Jones Award way back in the day before they had big shots like One Shot. And, also, I was on the Gauntlet podcast for a while. I've dropped back to be a producer on there. And Plus One Forward podcast, powered by the Apocalypse, which is all about PPTA games. So I get to basically spend a lot of money because everyone comes on with these cool PPTA games. I'm like, yeah, I need that too. Here's my shelf. I'm a GM for the Gauntlet community, which is this wonderful online community that plays all kinds of indie RPGs and OSR, small press, small book type games all the time. The calendar's filled with, over 100 games every month are happening. And I also have my kind of online home group, which is the Intercontinental Group of Awesome, where I run games currently on YouTube, but we will probably be going to Twitch soon. Thanks, Google. I run about 120 RPGs a year, almost all online, but occasionally at cons. And I'm pretty excited because I just recently moved and I have a home group, so I've started a game with Demigods PVTA this next Thursday.
Nice.
And I'm also a member of the Lost Highway Games Design Collective, and that's one of the reasons I reached out to you guys and begged you to have me on.
Yeah, actually, can we talk a little bit? I mean, we're big advocates of collectives, right? Like that's a thing that we're very much about. I did a whole Twitter rant about not doing publishing by yourself anymore. Can you tell us a little bit more about the Lost Highways Game Design Collective?
I'd be happy to. So Lost Highway Games, I'll start off a little sad. So Paul Edson, who recently passed in March of this year, was one of my best friends. And he, at the time that we started talking about making games together, I lived in Jacksonville, Florida, and he lived in Washington, D.C. And the only thing that separated us was I-95 Highway. So we started this partnership called I-95 Games. And then as we started kind of cooking and brewing up some different games, Jen Kitzman, who is a very close friend of ours, she had this game she started working on. My friend Heidi Schlotman, she started working on a kind of handbook for play-by-post games. Alex Prinz, who's the main artist for my current project, was interested in getting some more exposure and doing more work for RPGs. And so, we were all starting to work underneath the I-95 thing. And then Paul passed away in March. And it just didn't. And then I moved, so it's like I-95 felt sad. It was sad making to me. And Jim threw out, let's go with Lost Highway Games. Let's name that. And so that was the name of the little design collective that we're all doing our own thing, but we're here to help each other out. And my Kickstarter is really to launch Lost Highway Games, to try to deliver a really good product, make people happy and excited. So the next time around, when hopefully Jen's next up to bat, when she comes out with some stuff, people will be like, oh wait, yeah, that game right there, that didn't suck. Let me give this one a try. That's the hope.
I love it. I love I love collectives. Like, I think that solo publishers, I tip my hat to solo publishers, but I wouldn't do it. And I think everything that we've done at Encoded was better for the fact that multiple people helped with everything that we did. So I think it's awesome you guys are doing it as well. So that's super exciting. There's something else that there's something else you are noted for that you did not list in your credits. No one, not even the designer, has run Lady Blackbird more times than you?
This is probably true.
What do you know the actual count?
I'm up to around 60 times that I've run Lady Blackbird. I've run it over play-by-post, run it live over Hangouts, one-shots, and small campaigns of it as well. Wrote some stuff for Gauntlet's amazing monthly magazine Codex, and then I helped Jesse Ross, who's a great artist and design person. He's like the Renaissance man of gaming. I helped him. He's got ladyblackbird.org, and he did a kind of revision of Lady Blackbird. You guys should totally check it out, ladyblackbird.org. So yeah, Lady Blackbird's kind of my jam.
Yeah. I had the chance once to play it with you, which was amazing. So I am counted in the somewhere in the 60 of those that were out there. But I find it fascinating because I have rarely run a session of anything more than just a few times. Like I'm fascinated at what 60 plays of a game teaches you about the game, the way people play it, and things like that. Which we can save mostly for the after show. But I'm utterly fascinated. If you want to just give us like one or two lines, that's awesome. Like I would love to unpack that more later.
Yes, I would love to talk with you more about it later. There are a lot of different permutations of that game based on what characters are chosen and choices that are made that are really fascinating.
Hey, Bob, would you put a note in the after show for us to talk about that? So we don't forget. All right.
I'm sorry, I was
Lady Blackbird, Rich's take.
more on
Yeah.
Lady Blackbird.
Yeah.
in the
All right,
after show.
thanks. Let's move on.
Yeah, let's move on.
Cool. So let's talk about one thing. Let's do our one thing.
Mhm.
So one thing is the segment where we talk about one thing that we've been kind of like into for the last week or in perpetuity since, we have a guest. So Rich, why don't you give us your one thing?
Okay, selfishly, one of the campaign series that I run for the Gauntlet is Star Wars Saturdays, and every Saturday I run a different Star Wars game. So when this particular YouTube video that's actually on Star Wars Kids came out, it blew my mind. It's called Jedi versus Sith: The Skywalker Saga, and it's like the best minute and a half of Star Wars I have seen.
Oh my God, I
in
saw that.
a long time.
Ridiculously cool.
Oh, cool, man. Oh, it gives me chill bumps. It basically takes audio clips from the movies and then interlaces it with a whole new animated thing, and they tie together the entire Skywalker saga, passing into the sequels as well. It's tight. It's so good. There's one for Han Solo that's really good, another one for Boba Fett, but really the Jedi versus Sith one, it gives me chills. I've maybe watched it a dozen times this week.
Yeah.
Huh.
Super cool.
I'll have to check
I'm
it
gonna have
out.
to watch that.
Yeah.
Hey, Bob, what about you?
So Minecraft is back.
Yes.
Schmitty spun up a new server instance with some additional mod packs thrown into the mix to make things more interesting and give us a few more things to do. And so Sunday night it went live, and a bunch of us jumped on, and we've got a bunch of people already progressing through building their bases and playing with some stuff, and it's amusing, lots of fun.
We have people who are playing it right now, listening to the show.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
One of the more amusing things about it, I was testing the pack with a solo instance on my home machine while we were waiting for Schmitty to load the thing up to get the server ready. And there's a mod pack called Animania that we put in, which changes all the animals and gives you more like different varieties of like sheep and cows and stuff. Problem was that the default settings in the config for it were that all of these animals will breed on their own. You don't have to do anything to get them to breed, and they were breeding out of control. I have a picture that I took from my solo instance where just off in the distance is just cow after cow after cow after cow after cow, and that was just a small fraction of what was within like 50 blocks of me. It was ridiculous, the number of animals that were around my
and
base.
it was starting to lag out your
It was
instant.
lagging out my machine. It was like, oh, there's so many animals.
It was pretty funny.
So we had to tweak the configuration so that we wouldn't get overrun with animals.
Yeah, we were all testing during the weekend.
Good times.
Like just playing solo instances, and then when Schmitty set it off on Sunday, we finished our game. Which I guess, can I just segue in?
Yeah, go.
All right. So we finished our game Sunday night and jumped on. But before that, we had played our first session of Forbidden Lands. So this is the Free League game. This is the Hex Crawl game with the engine that's based on the Mutant Year Zero engine. I forget. There's a name for that. I forget. They have a name.
Isn't it that D6 dice pool game?
It is, but they have a name for it because they're going to come out with an SRD very shortly.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
that's cool.
So Forbidden Lands is really interesting. It's not a game I normally run, right? Like it's very old schoolish. It's a tad deadly, as we found out in our first encounter. We didn't lose anyone outright, but we almost did. And it was. There was a little bit of page flipping. Like, I mean, for all the prep I did, rules wise, it was.
Yeah.
There was a bit of a learning curve. I like the dice system. It's super interesting in things like armor and weapons get worn down, and you have to craft them back up, like to repair them and things. And there's a whole element of like overland travel has like actually all these rules and like phases for the day and stuff. And it is very much not the kind of game I normally run. But I'm liking the challenge, so we'll give it like 4 sessions, see how it shakes out.
Yeah, so far it's fun.
Yeah, so far it's fun. It is just very different. Like it's just a different experience, but it's cool. Like like we marked up the map, and like you have to like you put the map out. You have to put you have to start somewhere. Literally, like they don't tell you where to start. You have to like just pick a hex.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, this is your hex. Like put a dot in it. And yeah, so it was good. It was good. I liked it. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. I hope everybody takes to it, because if they do, I'm happy. Like I'll go get the campaign, because the book has like 3 adventure sites in it. So I was like, well, I'm not going to run out and buy the campaign stuff yet. If this game takes, I'll go get the campaign pack.
Makes sense.
The game system is called Year Zero.
Year Zero. Okay, good. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Rich.
Yeah, Rich is doing your work.
Oh, yeah.
In the chat room.
I was on the web looking it up, so I couldn't see the chat room to know that he was ahead of me.
And
That's fine.
Anyway, so yeah, Forbidden Lands session 1 was good. Bob lost his armor from a wolf attack. Glenn almost died from a wolf bite. Like they eventually didn't even beat the wolves as much as they chased the wolves off.
Like you do with wild animals, I suppose, right?
Yeah, it was good. I like note to self was like, okay, probably gonna tone down the encounters just a touch. Ooh,
that was weird.
Yeah, glitch in the Matrix.
A glitch in the Matrix, right there.
Yeah, we all right?
Your mic died for a second. That was interesting.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, Chris, tell me about your one thing.
Cool. So I've been playing a video game, not a lot of it, about 3 hours of it, called Hollow Knight. So I've been playing a lot of games that aren't role-playing games lately, for a variety of reasons. One, I play a bunch of role-playing games during the week, but Hollow Knight is a Metroidvania. So if you're familiar with like Castlevania, Symphony of the Night, or any of the Metroid games where there's like this sprawling complex that you can run around in, and then as you run around and get as you run around and defeat bosses, you find power-ups and whatnot. Man, this game is wonderful. It doesn't tell you anything about it. Like when you start playing it, like you can jump and you can swing your sword, and you start exploring. And as you're playing through the game itself, just through the play of the game, teaches you how to play it and gives you more and more things, and you kind of have to figure it out as you go. So I haven't played a game like this in a really long time. It's quite lovely. Yeah. I mean, like it's beautiful to look at. It's actually one of the highly rated games like that, where you can those Metroidvania platforms. I was looking around for one to play, and then of course one of my roommates bought it on their Switch. So I've been playing it on Switch, which is great. It's a wonderful implementation of a game like that.
There you go. Good
All right,
stuff.
so I guess we should move on then.
Yeah.
So let's do some announcements.
Yep, let's roll.
Who's doing? What's the first one? The first one is Red Carnations on the Black Grave.
Sorry. First announcement up. Red Carnations on a Black Grave. We just want to give a quick update. A lot of people have been backing this Kickstarter. It is, again, the very awesome game by Cat Ramen. And where are we at?
We are at 15 days to go, 300 backers, $13,044 out of the pledge of $3,000.
Yeah, so 15 days, right in the doldrums, right? Like right in that
Yep,
center.
right in that slow part in the middle.
Just in that center slow part. But really good. 300 backers is great at 2 weeks in. So I'm excited. I definitely backed that game. I've played it. So excellent. Let me do the next one really quick.
Yeah.
Are we okay? Because you're giving me the tech face.
Yeah, go ahead, keep going.
Okay. Next one up is the Turning Point Quick Start rules. Not out yet, but I announced it on Encoded earlier. earlier today. But very soon, the Turning Point Quick Start rules are going to go up on DriveThru RPG. This is everything you need to play Turning Point, with 2 of the dilemmas included, and some read-along text. Actually, the rules are basically read-along text so that you can just read it and teach people how to play.
Yeah, having developed it, it's quite effective.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it's really good.
We're looking forward to it. It'll go up on DriveThru. If you are a Patreon of the show, my guess is you won't have to worry about it going up on DriveThru. Just saying. Just saying.
It's gonna be there.
Keep your eyes peeled.
Membership has its privileges. Anyway, but the one that we really want to talk about is we're going to turn it over to Rich, because Rich, you're going to tell us about your Kickstarter.
Yeah.
All right. So, Hit the Streets, Defend the Block is the game that I've got in the Kickstarter world right now. We launched on Monday. In 4 hours, we met our meager funding goal. It was really the whole goal of the Kickstarter is to get professional layout for what was a Google Doc and to get some new art pieces from my aforementioned buddy, Alex Prinz. And so we met that goal. Now we're starting to chug through some really exciting stretch goals. So what is it? Hit the Streets, Defend the Block is a street-level supers tabletop RPG. It's inspired by comics like Marvel Knights and Daredevil, the web novel Worm, or TV shows like CW's Black Lightning, and then, of course, like the biggest inspiration is the Marvel Netflix series like Luke Cage and Daredevil, Jessica Jones, The Punisher, and then the team up, the Defenders, which is probably like the biggest of them because it was all the heroes getting together.
It's awesome.
I think it's great.
Yeah, I love all of those things that you listed, all of them. Tell us. So where are we on the Kickstarter as Bob scrolls rapidly back up?
Yes, it's got 28 days to go. 109 backers, $1,906.
Fantastic.
And the funding goal is 1,000.
Yeah.
So it's already funded.
Yeah. Again,
That's right.
I'm going to save a topic for the after show, but a couple days, I think it was last week, Rich posted a thing about publishing through POD through DriveThru.
Yeah.
And I have some strong feelings about POD through DriveThru because I think it's actually a very useful tool, despite the fact that a lot of game publishers will turn their nose up at it.
It has been added to the list.
But I have strong feels, and I think when you're first starting out, I think that DriveThru as a partner is a brilliant way to go. And having done 2 now ourselves, like, I'm pretty happy.
Yes, POD is perfectly fine.
I am perfectly happy with it. So we can talk about that if you want in the thing, because I believe as I watched Bob scroll, you are doing print through DriveThru, right?
Currently, yes, it's print on demand through DriveThru, and we're also fulfilling the PDF through DriveThru.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's great. Hey, boy, you're gonna find. Boy, when you get to the end of it and you're doing it, you'll find out how simple how simple it winds up being.
So, Rich, tell us a little bit more about the Kickstarter. Like anything else, like stretch goals, play sets, anything like that?
Oh, yeah. So what's funny is I started off, I'd say a month and a half ago, and I was just literally going to take my Google Doc. I had some like stock art that I liked and then some pieces that I bought from Alex, and I was just going to put it in my Google Doc with my zilch layout skills and just download it as a PDF and put it up as pay what you want. And the design collective got me, and they're like, okay, Rich, this is stupid, dude. Like, put it out there. Let's make it an actual thing. And so that's why we're here. And I didn't have any ideas for stretch goals up until just, I would say like 2 weeks ago. I was at Origins and I was running Hit the Street, Defend the Block. And primarily this game is designed for what I call midterm play, like a mini series. There's like 4 to 8 sessions. It's a real sweet spot. You can run a campaign, but you probably need to make some tweaks to the advancement system. But really, that's what it's for, because there are several steps to kind of building your world. And running it as a one-shot, I found was a real challenge. It's a 4-hour slot. And only because I know the game intimately, was I able to kind of push through. And I set with that challenge of like, what am I going to do? And so I made some Reese cups, right? It's a chocolate, it's a peanut butter. So the stretch goals are awesome because I'm reaching out to all kinds of folks that I know from gaming, and they're running neighborhoods. And so these neighborhood play sets do 2/3 of the work for you. And they also have a cool tilt on the idea of where your vigilantes or your superpower beings, we don't call them superheroes, just superpower beings, where you exist, where your street is. I've got a downtown stretch goal that's it's just about unlocked right now from Mark Diaz Truman, where he's riding a neighborhood that's going to be in a downtown that's like vacant, like everybody buses out or drives out as soon as 5 o'clock hits, and what's left behind is where these people have to live and exist. And so it's all kinds of different tales. One person's talking about doing the idea of a neighborhood set in the 1920s. There's going to be one non-U.S. neighborhood because the stretch goal person doesn't live in the U.S. And he's like, Rich, I don't know what you neighborhoods have. And I'm like, that's awesome. That's what I want. And so each of those stretch goals are going to be like 2-3 page PDFs. And I mean, they're not system neutral, but like if other people want to use it for their other games, that's perfectly fine with me too. So each of those will be released underneath the kind of Lost Highway Games banner, and hopefully it'll be tools that people will give us a look and be impressed with it. But mostly I just really am enjoying seeing these things kind of pass through. Sawyer Rankin, who is from Fahrenheit Games, he did a Monster Hearts 2 supplement of skins called Skin Deep. He's already given me his neighborhood because he's freaking prolific, and it's so dope. It's like Doom Patrol neighborhood. It's so good, guys.
I'm into that. I love the Doom Patrol, so
Yeah, so that's what's going on with the stretch goals. We've got a number of them lined up, and I hope we keep chugging through them because honestly, selfishly, like I want to read all of the content before it heads out and decide about it.
Cool.
Nice. That's pretty.
That's awesome.
Pretty sweet. All right. Anything else you want to say, or should we move on?
Move on.
All right, cool. Let's get into the next thing. It is a workshop. You ready, Phil?
You
ready?
Oh wait, no. I thought we had a different.
Oh yeah, you have the workshop on there. That's what I thought.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah, sorry.
I'll do this then. Where the heck is it? I have to find it. That one. That's right.
That's very fitting.
So today we're talking about street-level superhero games, and we have Rich with us because he's working on Hit the Streets Defend the Block, which is a street-level superheroes game. So we're going to discuss how to run games that have that tone, that feel, that style of play.
Yep.
To kick this off, though, we're going to ask Definition Panda, what is a street-level super game? Like, what's the definition and meaning behind that?
Yeah.
But first, here, let me play your bumper, which unfortunately Rich can't hear.
Yeah.
Behold! You are in the presence of Definition Panda.
You are all gonna regret that Crapper sent me that bumper. Like that's the best thing ever. Anyway, street level supers are exemplified by two things: low level superpowers and a focus on neighborhoods or streets. So when we talk about low level superpowers, we are talking about various abilities that superheroes can have, and in the range of low level, we mean powers that operate on a smaller scale, right? They're still super, right? Like there are abilities that people don't have, but the effects they create are kind of just above like human level. So things like flight is often not a low level superpower. Cosmic powers, molecular matter control, like all of those things. Shit you keep seeing in the Avengers comics. So anyway, like a good comparison for like low level versus not low level is like Daredevil versus the Silver Surfer, right? Like the Silver Surfer's power scales like off the is off the charts, and Daredevil's got superpowers, like clearly has superpowers, but they're pretty much like the scale is much smaller. Okay, so the next part of this is and this is a thing that I personally love because as we talked about pre-show, or we just talked about the opening of the show, Rich and I are both fans of Underground, and Underground was the first place that introduced me to the concept of the neighborhood as an integral part of the game. So the other part of low-level superheroes games is that they tend to be neighborhood focused, right? So this genre has a focus on what's happening in the streets of the neighborhood. Your plots are more like criminals and things like that, and not really like world threatening. So you've got mobsters and crime bosses and things like that. Some good examples of this, right? Daredevil's Hell's Kitchen, Batman's Gotham, and my personal favorite, Luke Cage's Harlem, right, from first season Luke Cage. All right, cool. So all of that packed up and defined. We're going to kind of just jump in. We've got a bunch of questions for Rich that we're going to be talking about all of this. So, Chris, what's our first question?
So, what is your favorite street level super in comics or other media? Let's start with our guest, Rich.
Well, Phil jumped in here and ninja'd me on Luke Cage Netflix, so I'll go with Daredevil Netflix, which was kind of the first one, and he's awesome. I loved all the Daredevil series. I love the conflict that he has, the idea of trying to do what's right and still trying to hold a regular job and seeing where things fall short on both ends, and also his conflicts with religion and his feelings about that were really interesting, fascinating to me.
Yeah, I agree. If I hadn't picked Luke Cage, Daredevil would have been my other choice. Like I thought the Netflix series did it great. I used to read Daredevil back in the mid to late 80s, like as a big Daredevil fan. I did pick Luke Cage. Season 1, Luke Cage is just one of my favorite things all around. Like I just love the character. I love his focus on community. Like my favorite episode of Luke Cage is still the one where everybody's got a problem. Like everybody's got a problem, and he like that day he just goes out and fixes he just tears through the neighborhood fixing one problem after another.
It's pretty great.
Yeah. So I am by all means a Luke Cage Netflix fan. Bob, I don't think we have to guess too hard.
Yeah.
What's your fave?
Spider-Man, hands down. I've been a Spider-Man fan since I was a kid, and
Nice.
to me that's classic street level. You know, young Peter Parker tooling around Queens and the rest of New York, just trying to get by, do his homework, make some money, you know, sell some pictures to the Daily Bugle, you know, that's classic street level. So I love that stuff.
I mean, I'm also, my favorite is Spider-Man. I have some honorable mentions though.
Yeah, you go by all. I mean, there's no shortage on this list.
So the reason that Spider-Man is my favorite is because it's not just the Peter Parker Spider-Man; it's all the different iterations of Spider-Man.
Sure.
Yeah.
Like in the different styles. Like I've read like 1 through 250, like the old ones, and I've read the different series going through like Maximum Carnage and the Superior Spider-Man with Doc Ock Spider-Man. It's such a good run, right?
Superior, that is one of my favorite.
A lot of the Dan Slott comics are wonderful Spider-Man books, but like I love Miles Morales. Like Miles Morales Ultimate Spider-Man after they killed Peter in the Ultimate Universe. Like what a great run of Spider-Man. And like we wouldn't have any of the superhero movies that we have today without well, that's the cat being
Wow.
The cat wanted to come in. Podcat's making some noise.
Podcat breaking into the room.
The Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie. I mean, we wouldn't probably have all the Spider-Man movies that we have, or we wouldn't have all the superhero movies we have today without that Spider-Man movie. It kind of like nudged people like, yeah, superhero movies might be a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Spider-Man 3 killed a lot of that momentum, but
arguably, X-Men had already kind of kicked off
yeah, a little bit
the superhero run, and honestly, some people would argue you can go back even further to the Blade trilogy.
I suppose.
I mean, yes, it's a
It's a
comic,
stretch.
but it always
Blade's such a C-level character.
Yeah, Blade always strikes me as more of a horror than a comic. I mean, I know it's a comic, but it's I don't know.
I'm just saying the argument can be made.
So I mean, I really love the Jessica Jones Netflix series. They're actually, after watching all of season 3, they're my favorite ones. They're so well done, especially season 3 of Jessica Jones Lives. Like I was like, oh man.
I mean, the chat room's having a fun time yelling out street level superheroes. Rob just named one of my other favorites, The Crow.
The Crow's pretty good.
Oh, I love The Crow.
See, the problem with Jessica Jones is I've never read any of the comics, so like that matters to me. Like I have to like. The Spider-Man is my favorite for the multimedia, like the animated series that was in the 90s. I really enjoyed that a lot too.
Yeah.
And the different versions of Spider-Man that have popped up over the course of time.
Didn't like the 70s one? That was the one I grew up on.
Man, I remember it. I know. Well, there's the Super Friends, but there's also the live-action TV show.
No. There was a cartoon, but that might have been in the 60s. Then there was a live-action TV show. That's awful. And then in the 80s, Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, which was amazing because it introduced the X-Men.
Did it?
Oh yeah, because
Firestar was
and
so
Bobby
was
Drake.
Iceman,
Yeah,
Bobby Drake.
They were X-Men. There's like 1 or 2 episodes where the X-Men are on the series, but we digress.
Well, and the other character that needs to be mentioned because the cartoon was amazing, and then the comics are really good as Static Shock.
Oh
Man, Static
yes.
Shock is such a good street level superhero, and if you have the DC Universe subscription, you can go back and watch it, and it still holds up. The animation's still solid.
I forget until because you mention Static Shock every now and then. I always forget that show, and as soon as you mention it, I'm like, oh yeah, I watched the hell out of that.
So good.
Yeah,
So good.
cool.
All right, I'm done.
All right, Rich. So tell us what drew you to doing a street level supers genre versus like the more cosmic tilting kinds of things, right? Because we're seeing like with the MCU, like the MCU went like total cosmic, while the Netflix thing kind of went total street. Like, how did you like? Where did you come up with the idea, and how did you kind of break on street level supers?
So, interestingly enough, the germination came from just a little bit of mechanics and what I like to play and run. The reason they hit the streets started is that for 2018 or 2019 and late 2018, I was doing a multi-GM project where we're doing a shared universe, kind of like a living campaign called Gauntlet Comics. And in Gauntlet Comics, it's the idea that it's a comics line, but several different Gauntlet GMs could come in and exist in that world. And we'd have a wiki, so the characters were created in one. You could see it in different, and we had all kinds of different systems that we were using, from like masks to My Life with Master, which, by the way, is a crazy thing to do in comics, Monster of the Week, all kinds of different permutations. And I wanted to do something that was city-based, right? Because we had this city map that we were sharing called New Gauntlet City. And you go cosmic, you go flight, you go big, and I think there are other games that really live and exist in that space. But I wanted to do something that was street, that was about your neighborhood, that was about having a day job, right? What does this threat mean? You can't just go knock over a building and then walk away from it, right? What are the repercussions? What's the aftermath that happens? How do you pay the bills? I don't know if you guys remember from the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, they released that Christmas album, which is amazing.
Yeah, it's so funny.
But Miles Morales, the actor for Miles Morales, has a song on there, and near the end, he's like talking about that he set up a GoFundMe because, you know, his web shooters, that stuff doesn't pay for itself.
That's great.
That's the heart of a lot of what was germinating and hit the streets. And so this is between me and you guys. So like a little bit of hit the streets to me is a little bit about being an adult and being a gamer too, right? You're being a hero, but you also got this day job that you got to keep. You're going out and doing these fanciful things, but you also need to take out the trash. And that mix of the two different styles and genres of life are really compelling to me. And so that's where Hit the Streets really lives. I mean, yes, I love the Netflix Marvel series, but there's a lot of other stuff that I enjoy bringing to the table for the game. And that's what I love most about it.
That is a really interesting angle to look at it from. I like that.
Yeah, I'll tell a quick story. When I was in grad school, I was trying to explain role-playing games to one of the postdocs in my lab. And I explained the whole concept, and he's like, that is so awesome. He's like, so like we could play a role playing game like where like we're all scientists working to make discoveries, like as we're sitting in a lab, right, doing experiments. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm like, you're missing the scope of this thing. Like we could be warlords and gods and like, you know, like travel to fantastic worlds. Like we're already like, we don't need to role play the thing that we're sitting here at the bench actually doing, right? Like, but you know,
oh no, I can't get my flies to mate.
Right.
You know?
roll to see if your flies will mate. And they'll mate.
Is that how that works? They just mate.
It's a timing thing. If you don't catch them within like 8 hours of hatching, they're mated.
So it's roll to see if you catch them.
Yeah, it's will you wake up and get in the car and drive to the lab at 5 a.m. to get them before they
mate.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. There you go.
Welcome to just one of the many reasons Phil left grad school.
So and also one of the many reasons why we'll never make a game that is about grad school.
But I love that, Rich. Like, I think you're right. Like, I mean, one day my office mate caught a glimpse of something I was doing on the computer, and she's like, it was something for a con. She's like, I get this feeling that when you're not in the office, like there's a whole other world I don't know about. And I'm like, yeah, pretty much.
That's accurate.
So yeah, I love it. Gamers as superheroes.
Gamers as superheroes. That might be the theme or the underlying tone for this whole episode, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So when it comes to supers games, emulating superpowers are always a challenging design decision. We have seen things so mechanical like Champions as well as incredibly abstract as in Masks. So how do superpowers work in Hit the Streets, Defend the Block?
So Hit the Streets, Defend the Block's approach to emulating superpowers is probably more on the Masks spectrum than Champions. I really don't have the head for complicated algebraical equations in order to have an obvious inaccessible focus so that I can have my power pool work the way I want. So I don't want to really create a physics simulation engine because that's really fun in Champions, but that's just not the kind of game that felt like me. So the powers for Hit the Streets are grouped into kind of 9 large groupings that, from what I can tell, they cover pretty much all the superpowers that I've seen in comics and stuff that I've seen modeled in most other Supers RPGs. I mean, I haven't found a superpower that I couldn't fit into one of the 9 categories with some creativity. And you can usually model a comic book power with it in a couple of different ways based on how you see it working. Each player gets to assign 2 powers to their superpower being during character creation. And so that's how it works. Those 2 powers will, they basically just give you a couple extra dice because the way that the mechanics work in BASIC is that you're building a dice pool of 6-sided dice. And if you can narrate bring into your power, then you can add a couple extra dice to that and it gets you a little bit of a boost. And it also gives you that kind of narrative permission to do something really off the wall. And then if your dice are good, then maybe you pulled it off.
Yeah, I like
hey, what about this? Why don't I throw a couple comic book characters to you guys and see if we can model them and Hit the Streets? It might give you a good little example.
Bob's got to know about Spider-Man.
Well, yeah. How would you do Spider-Man?
Ooh.
Yeah.
All right, so keep in mind, you only get 2 powers, so we're not talking about, like, Spider-Man with the cosmic suit or anything along those lines. But I would probably give Spider-Man super movement, which can be clinging, and that could totally be his web slinging and moving about the city. And you know, if you wanted to go with a more offensive-minded Spider-Man, he has the strength of 10 spiders or 10 men or 10 Spider-Men. So you could go with super hands, which is the boosting that particular stat. Instead of it being at a default of like 2 dice, you'd start with 6 dice. And so you'd be really super strong if that's the way you want to play him. Or you could easily go with incredibly agile and hard to hit, and that's another model. So, you know, can you make Spider-Man right now? No. Could you make Miles Morales at the start? Yes, and then build towards, because there is an advancement system, and you can pick up those powers as you go.
Actually, doesn't Miles have more powers to begin with than Peter?
He does, but he just kind of stumbles into them.
Yeah, because he's got the venom sting.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's got the sting.
But you
and
can
he can turn
ability.
invisible.
But you can totally advance those.
Aside from having all the powers
Absolutely.
that Peter has. So it'd probably be easier to do Peter when he gets bit.
Yeah, but through advancement, it'd be fun to actually play those out.
Yeah,
like all
right?
of a sudden, I have the Venom sting. Yeah,
I think it's fun to play like, well, you have it, but you can't use it reliably at all, period.
Absolutely. And it could be a thing where you have a conversation with the GM, hey, I'm angling towards this power, and then you could hint towards it with a couple of misfires along the way, and that's easy enough to model.
Oh man, I feel like I should give you this really hard one to see if it's even doable. And I don't even know if this is a street. I don't even know if this is a street level. It feels like street level.
You gotta pick something street level.
Because I feel like Spawn was a street level hero, even though he's not like on that scale, but he was in a neighborhood most of the time.
Yeah, he was really close to street level because he definitely never left that alley.
Yeah. So what about Spawn?
What about Spawn? Oh man, I think if you wanted to go with Spawn as an incredibly spooky character, you know how the way he could kind of sneak around in the alley and his cloak was terrifying. You could probably have a mental ability there, just the ability to intimidate and terrify your foes. So that's one of the powers that I'd probably give to them. And I don't know, which is more important to you, the kind of Spawn that can meld into shadows and disappear, or is he just straight out badass?
I think it's
it takes his.
I think it's the movement with the chains and whatnot, because he had a lot of that. He could use those chains and the cloak to move around a lot of ways too. I think that makes him
then
more strange.
yeah.
I think that makes him more creepy, along with the intimidation factor.
Absolutely. Then I would probably go with something like substance control, and the control would be the power of shadow and his chains and his cloak. And then anytime that you narrate that into a conflict that you're having, boom, you're bringing that power into play.
All right,
Cool.
Phil, what do you got?
One,
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
yeah. Go, Phil. What do you
All
want?
right. All right. I don't want anyone yelling at me. Chat room, don't yell at me. I want, because I was a fan of the comic, not so much the TV show. Give me Iron Fist.
Oh, wow. So first I will say that Danny Rand is probably not somebody you'd see and hit the streets because he's a rich guy. And there's like this weird feeling of like the Green Arrow, Iron Fist as Danny Rand rich guy Batman thing that to me doesn't always fit. But let's go with the power. So he's definitely going to have defensive powers, right? He's an incredible martial artist. And then there's another power that's called highly trained, which would be great for Robin, and it would be awesome for Iron Fist. No, that doesn't do the Iron Fist, but maybe he's got a block on it, or his cheese all misaligned, or something like that. You can build towards it.
First season.
Or
yeah.
he lost it, like he gave it to. He let somebody steal it from him, or something.
That happens all
Yeah.
the time.
And in Phil's defense, let me say, the moments between Luke Cage and Iron Fist and the Defenders were exactly what I wanted Iron Fist to be, and they were awesome.
Yes,
So,
yes,
I just wanna say that.
I will also agree. The scene in the dojo where Luke basically calls him on his shit is great.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, which made up for like the whole first season for me.
Yep.
Oh
Same.
man.
Same.
All right. Well, where do you want to go with this conversation now?
Well, you know what? Let's take a break. And let's hit up the chat room because I had to yell at them because they started to mob me about the Iron Fist thing. And but before we get into talking to the chat room, Chris, tell us about one more show on the Misdirected Mark Network.
Sure. So there's this wonderful podcast called Bonus Experience. In fact, it's even more wonderful now because I've listened to a bunch of episodes, but I just edited 3 episodes of it, and it's really enjoyable to listen to Ray and Monica. I mean, you can tell that they're two old friends. They have a good time together. They are exploring gameplay and design through the lens of diversity, while also sharing some of the dumbest humor that anybody could offer. And they also like to say that they're queer women who speak authoritatively about games, and they swear, die mad about it.
I love it. I can't wait because we're gonna get Monica.
Yep, Monica's going to be here for the QCC. It's going to be
Nice.
fun.
That's next week. I'm super excited.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. All right. How's the chat room for life other than just a little rowdy?
Grumbling at you. I would like to throw one out from the chat room for us to do one more street level superhero, just because the name stood out to me. Black Canary.
Rich, can you do the Black Canary?
Absolutely. Black Canary. She's definitely highly trained. I mean, if
Yep.
we're going with the Young Justice version of her, which is my personal fave, she trained them on combat, even Superboy. So definitely highly trained for her. And then to model the Canary scream, you could easily do that as so one of the stats is called a jaw. You could have a super jaw that you're using as this sonic attack. But if you felt like it was more along the lines of an emotional control or a mental ability, you could model that as well. But I'd probably go super jaw. And that also gives her the ability to be pretty charismatic. And who doesn't love Black Canary?
Cool.
I mean, depending on the version of Black Canary, she's pretty much always very charismatic anyway.
Sure. And then one more quick question from Blake Ryan. Rich ran a few 12-plus session-long campaigns. Did that help or hinder working on Hit the Streets?
I mean, everything that I do comes from play. And so, yeah, just running the treadmill and hitting the heavy bag of running games and playing games all the time keeps me in connection with gaming, and it's never going to hurt, except for, the idea of needing sleep. That's fine.
Sleep is overrated.
Sleep is overrated.
Sleep when you're dead.
Yeah. I mean, I'm with you. I think that everything. What you call it? I think you have to play games. Like, I mean, I don't know where we would come with the material for the show if we weren't constantly playing stuff. I mean, 80% I think of what we do for show topics 100% of what I do for Gnome Stew topics. Like all of that is some experience from a table.
Yep. All right.
Cool.
Let's jump back into
are they
the
all
topic.
are they all back under control?
Yeah, I think we've
Okay.
wrangled them.
Cool. All right. So Rich, we talked about superpowers. So now let's flip it over. Let's talk about neighborhoods. So talk about the role of neighborhoods as a component of play in Hit the Streets, and what mechanics do you have that help enforce the neighborhood?
Okay. This is it's interesting, right? Because I know that you've worked on H2O, which has a lot of neighborhood stuff going on. It has some really cool mechanics. I've really enjoyed playing Hydro Hackers with you. For Hit the Streets, Defend the Block, the idea of the neighborhood is it's the home base, it's the backbone. It is where everything is going to happen. So when you start off the game, once everybody has an idea of the characters they're going to play, the GM takes a sheet of paper, or if you're playing online, which I primarily do, take a Google drawing and you just draw a line down the middle of the paper and you say, bam, that's Main Street. You point to one of the players and you say, okay, your character, Rough Justice, draw a street that connects to Main Street somewhere and show me where they live. And you go around until everybody's got their own street where their character lives, or sometimes there are people who are like, I want to be in an apartment complex with we're Fighting Joe over here. That's fine too. And then you do another round and we talk about places where people work, major landmarks, parks where maybe the fight went down, hangouts, bars, that kind of stuff. And within the space of 15, 20 minutes, you've got this terribly drawn but incredibly evocative neighborhood map. And that exists in the middle of the table or on one of the screens that you have. And as you guys play, okay, I'm going to frame up the scene. We're going to do so-and-so thing. Okay, where is that? Right? And we're not bringing out minis and we're not going to mark out our areas of opportunity, but we have a sense of place. We have a shared imagined space that exists in a particular, like we're on the same page, as it were. And as the game goes on, you start to develop that map. We come up with new places get burnt down, things are built up, gentrification happens, an explosion may happen, and so it's a living, breathing part of the game. Is there when you touch the map, roll 6-sided dice? No, but the mechanic of it is that this map is as important to play as any other aspect of the mechanics of the game.
Well, it's the setting. I mean, you've just made a setting together, so therefore you all have a ton of buy-in into the setting and the things that you created around it.
Yeah, and I think, besides that, you've also created the situation, right? Because you've not only created the locations, but like now everything's anchored in this space. Like this is where our stories.
It is definitely part of it'll help define the situation, I would imagine. I'm actually curious about that. How do you create a situation in this game using the neighborhood, or is that something else?
Oh, well, so first, I just want to ninja Phil on this. Yes, I stole this from the Hood.
Yeah, me
James
too.
Mullen's amazing game, The Hood. Yes, it's so good.
In fact, Rich, I'm gonna pay it right back to you because I would not have known about The Hood if I hadn't heard it on +1 Forward.
Yay!
Because I heard your interview with James Mullins on +1 Forward. Went and bought the game, ran it. Did the neighborhood thing, and then when I was writing Hydra Hackers, I was like, I am totally lifting this because it is amazing. So yeah. It all comes back to, so Rich, it was actually all you.
Oh, it's so nerd twin powers activate.
Yeah, right? Like a temporal nerd just occurred. Yeah.
So how does the neighborhood create plots? How does it generate story?
If it does.
If it does, it does because, so in the GM section of Hit the Streets, Defend the Block, I talk pretty extensively about giving tips for GMs to make that map come to life, and by asking a lot of questions, because each of these folks need to have a day job, right? And so what you have to do is put it in under some kind of threat. The owner of the Lebanese restaurant that girl is waitressing at, the owner has to pay some extortion money to one of the rival teams, and the guy keeps squeezing her boss for more money, and so he's got to cut a few people's hours. Bam, there you go. That's immediately a plot. How are you going to deal with that, right? If there is a particular ballpark in the middle of the neighborhood that everybody likes, but they know it's a little bit run down. Well, the city councilman wants to bulldoze that and have a brand new park with some new corporate sponsorships. Just put those things that people care about under threat. You don't fridge things. What you do is you find out what people care about and are willing to go to bat for, and you edge towards putting those things under threat. And then, and here's the part that a lot of people, I at least in my experience, a lot of times DMs may not always follow through on. Once that thing is better, you don't go back to that well. You update that map. If they saved that thing and they actually pulled it off, okay, well then the park's got it's a landmark now. You can't touch it, right? Maybe there's somebody who's going to have a fundraiser to try to spruce it up a little bit. And so then you update the map there. And there are other aspects, the whole neighborhood. There are other things you can put under threat, so just move around. Does that answer the question, Chris?
Yeah, that totally does. It's actually what a lot of those kinds of stories do anyway, like the ones we see in media. So,
well, and I think it's so good. I think that like that whole activity of drawing the neighborhood map is its own form of love lettering, right? So like we're putting down the things that we care about because it's a superhero story. So of course we know these things are going to come, into danger. But Rich, tell me, is the GMing advice, like, are the principles for the GMing advice going to say like don't fridge things? Like, I feel like that would be like a perfect piece of GMing advice in this game. Don't.
Well, let's ask the question. Like, what advice do you have for GMs in terms of how to run this game?
So, I'm really happy you asked that, Chris, because so in my long tenure of running games and playing a lot of games, I've always kind of avoided doing GM advice. I mean, if you think about Cannon Puncture and Plus One Forward and Gauntlet, I'm like talking to other people about how they game, and I'm just a sponge. And this was the first time where I had to sit down and write a GM section. I'm like, how do you take 20-ish years of doing this thing where you've stolen from the best and learned from the worst of what not to do? And how do you boil that down? And my GM advice starts from safety tools, and it flows through character creation and how to ask questions, how to follow up on those questions, how to develop triangle relationships, which is something I first heard about in Smallville, but I felt like it was hit on pretty well in Apocalypse World and a lot of the other PBTA games. How to generate story from the characters. I even have a section I call your players or your prep, where I specifically try to highlight ways to ask questions that elucidate answers that are actionable and interesting so people have immediate buy-in, all the way through to following through on those things, giving them a little bit longer tail, and then how to elicit feedback at the end of every session. Roses and Thorns is my default kind of feedback tool, but what's important about ways to draw out of your players what they've enjoyed, how to coax them to offer critiques or critical feedback, because this isn't just a hobby for me, it's a craft, right? It's a thing we can all get better at, and so that's why it's really important to me. So I try to go soup to nuts and just vomit forth apocalyptica, as it were, to steal from Vincent Baker and McGay.
All right, so now I'm gonna pin you down, because that was a high level description of what you've done. Why don't you hit me with some of the maybe an example or two of what is in there that you're really proud of as far as advice or ideas that people should be utilizing in their games? Is it like a taste for people that might want to back this book?
All right, cool. So I'm going to cheat because Heidi Schlotman is a member of the Lost Highway Games Collective. I really wanted to give her the opportunity to put something in here, so I had her write a particular part of the game in the GM section about making the system and the settings sing. And so she wrote something about corruption. And one of the things that she wrote was a couple pages on how to involve corruption of government or banking, financial. How do you bring that corruption into a street level game and make it interesting? And she actually developed this cool little 2-die roll 2d6 table where you can kind of OSR it and table up and create your corruption ideas and generate your plots so quick. And I just love it. I've used it, and it, A GMC, which game manager character, because I don't know, NPC didn't feel right. So a GMC group sold out 2, and they sold out 4. So we roll a couple dice, and a drug dealer has sold out for fame. Boom.
Love it.
That's enough to kind of kick off, right? And there are all these cool little ideas within that are nested there that give you some cool plots to kick forward something that's corruption based. And I'm really proud of that. I think Heidi's a superstar.
Heidi's lurking in the chat room.
What?
Hi,
oh my
Heidi.
goodness, there's Heidi's flower.
Well, hello, Heidi.
I know.
That system sounds amazing. Like when I flipped through the doc you gave me, I saw that table. It's fantastic, and I love those kinds of random tables because it will always come up with something that I wouldn't have thought of on my own. But like once I look at it, I'm like, oh, I'm totally doing this. Like, yeah.
But to add in one more thing that's actually mine, one of the things I'm really proud of is, so we talked about this Lady Blackbird thing, and if you, so the base of Hit the Streets, Defend the Block is that you take a few different aspects of what your character's about and how you want to do something, you build a pool of 6-sided dice, and you roll against a target number set by the game manager, and you're looking for evens on those dice, right? So that sounds a lot like Lady Blackbird, right? So I just took some of my Lady Blackbird skills and I slammed that into GM advice. So the idea of one of the things I think if I remember I did for you, Phil, and Chris when I ran it is having 2 difficulties, right? Okay, here's how hard I think it probably is. But like if you want to go for the gold, let's like up that difficulty to so and so, right? Let's go higher, right? And then it's up to the player. Like, do I want to just get it done, or do I want to get it done with a plum? And then when they risk themselves out there, that's the kind of thing that can generate a lot of plot, because the main mechanical engine that drives this thing is what's called spark. Now, spark is kind of like your hit points, but you can also expend it to get more dice to either do something or to help out one of your teammates. And whenever you get hurt, you're losing spark, and the only way to get spark back, and this ties back to the neighborhood, is to either do something to benefit the neighborhood, like some charity work, like a fundraiser, that kind of thing, hunting down, patrolling the neighborhood and taking down your low-level thugs and criminals like, Bob, like Spider-Man. It's totally stolen from Spider-Man. Or bonding scenes, which allow you to regenerate that stuff when you're having player-to-player, character-to-player character conversations and kind of reinforcing the bonds between your teammates. So that's the part that I like, is the 2 difficulties, because, hey, everybody wants to look awesome, and then you're going to burn through that spark, which then fuels the engine of let's have some downtime scenes. And so we get to see not just the big 2-page spread splash of action, but we get to have the quiet moments where we learn what is it that your characters care about, and seeing them actually being a living part of that neighborhood.
And there's the core loop of play.
Yeah, I love it. Right, I love that dichotomy. I love the idea of either going on patrol or doing a fundraiser thing. And I think, because I've been trying really hard to avoid the Spider-Man trailers, but I think there's a little of that in the trailers that have come up.
For the Far From Home?
Yeah. There's like a little bit of like fundraising charity kind of thing that Spider-Man winds up doing.
So this game sounds like it would play for longer than 4 to 8 sessions if you wanted to. What makes it so it's the sweet spot is 4 to 8, and it's harder to run it for longer than that?
Well, the way that you generate advancement is through experience points. And the experience point system I've found, as it's currently built, you're going to get between 3 to 5 experience points per session if you participate and you're actually going after what your character's about. And so over the course of 5 to 7 sessions, you're going to be adding enough advancements to where the challenges start to get a little outrageous. And so I could see it as like a legacy type game. But I think after 7 to 10 sessions, I really feel like the mechanics are going to get to the point where you kind of power out. Maybe it's a thing where it's like, hey, Avengers, like we're going to do this Avengers Detroit thing. Like let's pull up Luke Cage. All of a sudden, he leads the team.
So you could, though, if you wanted to, probably extend how many experience points you need to level up or slow down the experience point advancement to have, like, if you wanted to play multiple seasons, I put that in quotes, of like a series. So like if you wanted to play your Luke Cage show for 2 or 3 seasons, you could actually do that by just kind of moving some of that stuff around.
Oh, absolutely. But I would say my recommendation is find new heroes. Right. That's just my personal selfish recommendation. You can do it, but I think that you can get a lot of enrichment out of tearing it all down. Maybe you've inspired a new hero and you can stick in that same neighborhood. Maybe you push it forward 5-10 years and you see the after effects. Maybe it's gone to pot again, and these new vigilantes, these new superpower beings need to jump in. But yeah, if you wanted to slow down the progression system, you could totally do that.
Yeah. I love it.
Cool.
I love it. So I think we've danced around some of this already, but I'll ask just to expand it, because we've talked a little bit about a couple different systems. But what is in the DNA of this game? Like, where did your inspirations come from? What did you pull from to put this together? Because you've mentioned a couple of them already, but maybe just take a moment to kind of coalesce them all together.
Thanks, Phil. I can bounce all over the place sometimes, but thanks for giving me a chance to focus. 1%er. The Outlaw Biker game is from Creepy Doll Studios by Robert Nolan. This is a game I discovered back in 2016. It's kind of Sons of Anarchy, the RPG, and the core mechanics of Defend the Block, Hit the Streets, Defend the Block, are absolutely that DNA. In fact, up until just recently, I was running as 1%er supers, but then everybody thought it was like the 1%, like 99%, that just didn't seem to fit. And I also felt like it kind of earned its own name in my mind. But 1%er, or 1%er, the Outlaw Biker gang has, instead of Spark, sorry, I'm going to go a little blue.
Oh, it's okay.
Is that okay?
We're explicit.
All right.
You've been warned.
All right. I know. I admit that I just like to warn because I don't curse much on podcasts. But the stat is called Fox. And for that particular game, it sounds off-putting until you play it. And you're like, I grok this so hard, because you're playing these badass bikers, and you can get the fuck beat out of you, right? Or you can look at your buddy over there who's basically trying to take a wrench to the back of the head of one of your rival gang members and say, I really give a fuck about you, man. Here's some dice, right? And when you're all out of that particular resource, you've got no fucks to give.
Yep.
It is so cool. And I actually started running 1%er supers with Fox, and I'm like, this makes me feel weird. I don't want to say it this much because they're vigilantes, but I don't know. So that's why it became Spark. At one point, I actually called it Fork because I love the good place, but that was really dorky and didn't work at all. But Spark has worked pretty well.
Can I just say
so that's the core of it.
Can I just say real quick, that was really funny. The first time you said fuck, Rich, it was a little bit under your breath. And then as you said it more and more, it got louder and louder, and it was okay. It just made me laugh a little, that's all.
Yeah,
You're fine.
But I do think it's important, right? This goes to theming, and this goes to, we were just talking about earlier about naming moves. Like, there is a thing, like, about having mechanics that thematically fit the genre.
Not just mechanics, but like terms and things like that.
Yeah,
terminology.
Your trappings, like all your trappings.
Yeah, the trappings are important. They matter. To tell the story on the mics, and I think Phil's told on the mics, and for Rich to hear it here, like, Phil was super nervous about showing you the Hydra Hacker moves, but when you said that all these moves, like, you got it from all the terms, like, Phil was super excited because he was like, yes, they all kind of did what I thought we were supposed to do with the terminology.
Well, Rich was the one who said to me that they were, having looked at them, was like, these are like really thoughtfully named.
Yeah.
And I was like, like, woof, because it's not like Rich hasn't seen a few PBTA games before, so having Rich play Hydra Hackers was a fairly nerve-wracking experience in the beginning.
I'm sorry. It was so fun, though, and I'm really glad that you gave me a chance to play it.
Oh, well, I was excited that it all lined up so that we could play it at Origins. But yeah, I do think, like, I know I did. Like, the original names, almost none of those moves had the original names. Like, I went back over them and over them.
Mm-hmm.
And sat in front of Google, like, typing in words and looking up terms, and like, it's I think sometimes people don't realize what goes into that. So yeah, to go back to Fucks and Sparks, like, Sparks I think is perfect for for a supers game, and like the idea of running out of spark, especially for a low level supers game, is like it's perfect, right? Like, of course, like you're not running around like Captain Marvel. Like, there's a limit, and when it runs out, that's
bad things happen.
Yeah.
I mean, that's when Luke Cage gets shot in the gut with the bullet.
Juice bullet.
Or something bad happens in the neighborhood and he gets turned into a villain by everybody. I imagine that's probably what happens in the game, right, Rich?
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, well, why not? That's what you do. Every rival used to be a good guy or is still in their own head.
Mm-hmm. I mean, not that your hero becomes an actual bad guy, but the neighborhood perceives them to be not on the up and up in some way, shape, or form. Like that's a storyline that occurs in those kinds of stories.
Well, that's Spider-Man.
Oh yeah, and actually, one of the games I ran in Gauntlet Comics, the team of player characters were referred to as the Scoville, because Scoville Terrace was the neighborhood they made. They were the Scoville Scourge. Like, everyone hated them. And we had our own J. Jonah Jameson talking trash about everything good they did was turned by the media. It was hilarious.
The Scoville Scourge are a menace.
That's funny.
Yes.
I like it.
Exactly is it.
Any other games? Any other things?
We talked a little bit about the Hood.
Yep. We talked about One Percenter. Is there anything else you want? You talked about the Gauntlet Comics situation, but you didn't mention that there wasn't. I think you have in the notes written something about how there's not a lot of games out there that do what you're doing.
I don't feel like it. Like I have 4.9 gigabytes of PDFs in my Supers folder.
That's a lot of PDFs.
Yeah, and not all of them are champions, which are gargantuan files. Compression would be a nice thing to have there.
Those are the early days, man. They didn't have compression back then.
OCR readers. I just don't feel like there's a thing that hits this. I think there's some that are close, but none that have an easier mechanic. Like, there just seems to be this strong desire that when you want to do supers, you all of a sudden want to model physics in a realistic way, except with a person who has amazing strength or monstrous strength. And so, yeah, I kind of had to take this game that I'd hacked for Star Wars already with 1% or Supers, Swoop Gang, and I'm like, this can totally work for Supers. How do I tweak this around and make it work? And then I was like, but it needs to be tied to, the Hood has this neighborhood thing. Yeah, okay, good. Those two flavors taste good together. I can make this work.
Oh, now wait a second.
It's really, yeah. No,
I'm sorry. Go ahead and finish that thought. I have a question to ask you.
So 1% or Supers as a thing didn't exist until I sat down in October of last year and said, okay, what games are going to run in this Gauntlet Comics thing? And I'm like, I need a street level thing. I need something that ties to the city. And that's where it came from. It was so easy to make because 1%er is such a solid, really good game. Luis, who's a really good buddy of mine in the Gauntlet, he's actually come up with an avatar hack of it called Agents of Balance. It is so tight, but he'll never be able to release it because,
Avatar.
It's a thing.
Just file those serial numbers
the
up.
The lawyers will crawl all over him. Okay, the thing I wanted to ask you, because I swore as soon as you said it, am I right that somewhere in the text of your document you have good, remarkable, incredible, amazing, monstrous?
Those are the names of the difficulty levels for doing anything. Yes.
Yes.
Those are yes.
Yes. Just
that is.
That's like a phase rip reference,
right?
How do you not use those?
That's a Marvel superheroes reference. Those are. There's no mistake in those.
So is, dude.
Yep.
Not even gonna hide it.
Nope.
Not even gonna hide it.
No, it's perfect. It's such a great homage to the. I mean, again, talking about trappings, and Bob, we are definitely talking about this on a future episode.
Yes.
As a kid, to me, those terms for Marvel superheroes were super compelling because they sounded exactly like Stan Lee made up the stats for that game.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And it helped make it feel Marvel to me. And now those words are just synonymous with superhero games. Like, I still do it. Like, I'm like, oh yeah, of course. Well, he has amazing agility. Of course he dodged out of the way of that.
Yeah.
Amazing agility. I mean, that
monster strength.
Isn't
That was
some of that
Colossus.
stuff on the back of the cart Whoa! Isn't some of that on the back of the cards for like the Marvel trading cards and things like that?
I'm not sure about the Marvel trading cards, but like, I mean, those were all the stat. I mean, those were the stat names. Like they had numbers, but no one liked. I mean, the numbers were
Whatever.
You used the numbers, but it was just it was amazing. 50.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I think I can still do them all, but yeah, that's that was the thing.
Do we have any other questions for Rich?
I think I'm good.
I just want to slide in before we forget about it. I just want to slide in and say that very, very young Rich Rogers was more of a comic book fan and didn't have anyone to play RPGs with other than the Redbox. And he convinced his dad to buy this Marvel superhero supplement called Project Wide Awake. So I didn't even have the game because that wasn't at the Toys R Us. But I got this Project Wide Awake, and I remember coming back and looking at all the stat listings for everybody, and they were all non-numbered, like amazing, incredible, monstrous. And oh yeah, so this says the Avalanche is stronger than the Beast. That doesn't seem right. And it was just, I'm making that up. I don't think the Beast is weaker than the Avalanche, but yeah, that was kind of the thing of when I was trying to think of difficulty names. I'm like, numbers are boring. Sure, we'll have numbers, but like, Marvel Superheroes has these cool names, so I'll just borrow those.
Yes, it's perfect. It's so good. Yeah, Marvel Superheroes was one of the early games. It wasn't my first game, but like I remember reading Dragon Magazine and seeing the ads for when it came out, and I bought like the yellow box like the second it came out and like lost my mind. I think my buddy and I stayed up for like nearly 2 days straight on a weekend. Playing Marvel Superheroes with like these 6 heroes that like 4 come with the box and a couple bad guys in the adventure. But man, we played the hell out of that game for so long.
So, is there anything else you wanted to mention or say or emote or tell us, Rich?
A big thanks to Robert Nolan from Creepy Doll Studios. He has been so generous with his time and advice as I started to kind of make this an actual thing that I would publish. He actually reached out to Drive Through RPG and sent a message through to everybody that had bought 1% earlier today. It's like, hey, there's this Kickstarter. I just think Robert's such a wonderful guy, and I just want to pass that out because I think he's awesome. I think he makes some really, really cool games.
Very nice. Very nice.
Cool.
All right, let's do this real quick.
Yeah.
Hey, Phil, are you a god?
Say yes. No. Demigods, the new tabletop RPG from Jason Mills, brings the world of myth and legend to a modern setting. The action-adventure game tweaks the Apocalypse World rule set to create powerful mythic characters who are tangled up in complex relationships with each other and their pantheons. Embrace themes similar to Good Omens, American Gods, The Iron Druid, and Percy Jackson as you take control of the story.
So I actually know what all 4 of those things are.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've read a bunch of the Iron Druid books.
I know of them. I just haven't experienced
I've read a lot of them.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's a part-time Gods game.
A little bit.
Sure does.
Yeah. Like a Powered by the Apocalypse part-time Gods game. Anyway, Demigods, which this is like in my jam, and I don't think there's a PBTA game that's like this. And I like me some PBTA games.
Yeah.
Is kickstarting July 9th through August 8th. If you want more information and a quick start of the game system, which I'm going to go get the quick start, go to demigodspbta.com and follow Jason on Twitter at It's Probably Okay.
And Rich, you've played this, right?
Oh my gosh, have I played this? I think I've run it about 12 times now. It is so good, you guys. And you guys were talking earlier about good move names. Jason Mills is a dope move namer. He has got some of the most. One of the moves is called #blessed, and it just tickles me every time it's used. It's so great.
What?
It's a really solid game. #blessed.
#blessed.
Oh, it's awesome.
Sorry.
I love it.
Oh, that's good. That's really good.
And then there's one move for the Warrior playbook that talks about how effective they are at melee and combat and the like, and it's called Poly Armory. I love that. So good.
I love it.
So good.
Man. I have like no Kickstarters right now. Like now that it looks like there's two
Well,
more that I have to go pick up.
Good for you. This on the date this episode drops will be the launch of the Kickstarter.
Yeah.
So everyone in the chat room is getting like a week sneak peek to it in a week early, and you got Rich's. Look, let me just say this: if Rich has put his blessing on it, like
Hashtag,
Mr.
if he has triggered the hashtag.
I mean, Mr.
bless
Plus
move.
One Forward has told you that this game is dope. Like you should be backing it right now,
Yes.
even before the Kickstarter starts. You should literally be finding Jason and giving him money.
Build yourself a time machine, go into the future,
Back it
back
and
the
come
thing,
back.
and then come back.
See, the problem is like these are two kinds of games that I love, right? Like one, they're PBTA games. They're easy to put on the table these days for me and run.
Yep.
One of them's a street level super game, which I've been dying for a quality street level super game. And two is this Demigods game, which is once again let's do some modern fantasy god situation and play. And if it's Iron Druid, that means you don't have to necessarily just be gods, because the main characters in the Iron Druid Chronicles of books is a druid who's ancient, a vampire, and a couple other, like, it's a bunch of mythic type characters. So it seems
rock
like you could
on.
play them. That'd be fun.
Right, rock on. This game looks
Cool.
This game looks awesome. It's going to be hitting Kickstarter next week, and you just heard about it.
All right. Is there anything in the chat room before we move on to the conversation corner?
Yeah, one more thing. Blake Ryan wanted to know, is Hit the Streets themed for teen or adult or both? Or can you just kind of wiggle back and forth?
It is age non-specific, but the default state is that you have some kind of real job. So if you're a real job high schooler, that's possible. But I will say that it's, I mean, most of the aspects of the game is colored to be pretty brutal. So I would really want it to be anybody over the age of 16, because, people get hurt.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Cool. Let's go to the conversation corner. Once again, another bumper that Rich can't hear. Sorry, Rich.
Yeah, sorry, Rich.
So let's chat about whatever and everything for at least 12 to 20 minutes.
12 to 20 minutes.
What do you want to talk about? Who wants to go first? I mean, Rich just talked the whole time. Maybe we should give his voice a break.
Yeah, Bob, tell us something.
Yeah, so yesterday I had another good therapy session. I'm in a weird spot because I clearly made progress, and I'm going in the right direction. But then I get into the space between sessions, and I will occasionally have moments where I'm like, I don't feel like I'm going anywhere. What am I doing? And then I'll be like, oh wait, yeah. I'll get into another session and be like, oh yeah, that's right. I'm kind of progressing, and things are not as bad as I thought, like last week. So we talked about today, one of the things that I want to do for myself is try and give myself some kind of tangible physical reminder to spark that thing in my brain, like, I'm starting to feel like, like I'm not getting anywhere, and like, oh wait, yeah, I am. Like, here's something to remind me, whether it be just a note I leave myself or an alarm on my phone or like something, just to remind myself every once in a while, like, yeah, you're doing good.
You know what it sounds like to me?
What?
Time for another tattoo.
Ooh, a tattoo.
You should check out Macklin. Macklin's got a lot of inspirational tattoos. Should consider some ink. That's actually my serious one. I was going to say branding, but thought I'd just get yelled at for trying to burn Bob again.
I always want to burn Bob.
Hey, vote in the chat room. Who wants to see Bob get burned? Let's see the eyes.
No, that's it's not really burn Bob, but a tattoo, man.
Oh man,
Macklin,
yeah,
you should talk
that's
to.
actually-
You should hit up Ryan fucking Macklin from the internet.
yeah. The fucking legend.
Yeah.
By the way, we really don't want to burn Bob, but it's been
It's
an
just a
ongoing
joke.
joke for like 200 episodes. So.
Yeah. But yeah, something like that, because I mean that's very what you call it.
Yeah, that is actually super appropriate. Yeah, I like that idea.
Yeah, absolutely. You
Cool.
should check it out. Macklin did a couple of them. They're really good.
Awesome.
Like the ones they're very personal to Ryan,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
they're really good reminders. Like there's he's got some meeples and a Captain Marvel symbol, like some really good stuff.
Cool.
Yeah.
What do you got going on?
Me? Well, one, I'm I'm all over that that Minecraft pack as well, which has been great. Like I forgot how much I enjoyed the group server. Like I was playing solo Minecraft after like the pack we had kind of petered out, But Sunday night, like I got home from the game, saw that everybody was on and the server was up, so I jumped on, threw my headphones on, jumped on. I teared up a little. Like I was so excited to have everybody back. Tony was there, and Gator, and Schmitty, and Andy. Like the second I spawned in, everybody was like, Phil, like had, Andy had beds for us, like ready to go. Like it was so much fun. That first night I was up to like almost 2 a.m, building stuff because it was just so much fun to be back in and playing with everyone. And I'll be back on tonight. Like I'm gonna go home from here. I'm gonna jump right on the server for a couple hours before I go to bed.
I'm gonna go to work.
Yeah. So that one's been really good for me. I'm prepping my masks game for QCC. The prom night dangerous space jail.
Prom night dangerous space jail.
Yeah.
So so far there are people who are going to play it who are in the chat room. So all I'm going to say is right now, besides making your character, you're going to be picking your prom date and your prom fate. So the prom date are these archetypes, and then you're going to use that to kind of make your prom date for the night. So like you could be like best friends that decided to go together, or you could be the relationship in trouble, like you're hoping the prom's going to be the thing that makes it all better. And then your prom fates are things like this will end in tears, you'll find a new love tonight, those kinds of things. And then yes, masks, prom, aliens invade, the whole 9 yards.
Yep.
Yes.
So that is underway. Like I'll be writing a bunch of that. I think tomorrow. I think if I look my schedule's correct, I'm gonna be writing a shit ton of that tomorrow to get it finished. So that's me. What about either Rich? You tell us. You've caught up. We'll ask you. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty great. I think the conversation corner for me is a little mundane, but we'll see. I recently relocated from Jacksonville, Florida to Minneapolis, Minnesota, and that's a thing.
That sounds like nothing mundane at all. That sounds like a giant life change.
Yeah. Also, don't we have listeners in and around? Like, where's
I have no idea who lives in Minnesota, Minneapolis.
Okay.
I'm not sure if Kevin's out that way or not.
Yeah, my geography's bad. I thought Lovecraft was out that way.
I thought he was.
He's out that way.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he is. And luckily Heidi, who may still be lurking out there, she's up here in the Minnesota ways, as well as Jesse Ross and some other folks. But during the month of June, because this was a job relocation, they put me up in a temporary housing until we were able to move into our townhome that we're in now. But in the month of June, I was downtown. Like I lived downtown. I was surrounded by apartment living folks. I walked downtown a mile every day to go to work because that's where my job is. And it was great because here I am heading towards this Kickstarter for the idea of a downtown neighborhood, possibly setting for Hit the Streets, Defend the Block. And I'm a small town boy from East Tennessee originally, so it was just fascinating to just see all the construction, the people who would like be able to anticipate exactly when the walk sign would come on, and they'd be halfway on the street before it actually flipped, but it was perfectly timed. And all the smokers, like there's so many smokers up here, but it's just been a super interesting experience to actually see downtown as kind of this living organism, and seeing all the habits that people go to, the way that you move down the street, the way that certain people make eye contact, and the amount of homeless people, man, I was just blown away at the sheer number of people who are homeless here in Minneapolis, which they just added $1 to the minimum wage, so $15 minimum wage, but they still have this kind of undercurrent of homeless folks. And man, I just feel bad for those guys when winter comes because it gets cold here. So anyway, it's a great city. I love Minneapolis, but being down here in downtown has been really enlightening. And now I'm out in the burbs, but that was a cool month for me.
It's awesome. You're getting invites. Weregator just said you should go to Gamehole Con.
Gamehole Con is, I will. Thank you, Weregator. I will check that out. Actually, July 1st was the first day that you could pre-register for Con of the North. So I will be running some games up there. So I'll be doing that.
Yeah, you'll be all plugged in. they'll get you covered.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of misdirected markers out in the Midwest.
Awesome, guys. I want a game with you. Let's link some dice.
Now the question is how far is Minnesota from Buffalo?
It's I think it's like a what's it, 11, 12 hour drive.
It's a little on the long side.
It's a bit of a hike.
Yeah, it's a little on the long side.
Oh, ask Kevin. Hey Kevin, how long is it to get to Buffalo from Minnesota?
Or how far is it to get to Origins?
Yeah, that's the better question.
No, Rich has already fixed Origins.
He already said more than that.
Oh.
Yeah, Origins was a long drive. I actually went through South Bend to get there because I met up with Lowell Francis, god of GMs, and his amazing wife Sherry, and we watched South Bend Cubbies baseball game, and then we took the 4-hour trip to Origins. So for me, all told, it was somewhere on the order of 15 hours.
Oof, that's a drive.
That's a hike.
So Rich, now that after this Kickstarter, will you be publishing your baseball game? Is this going to be your next one? Is this?
Yes. Yes. So this is my dry run. I love Hit the Streets Within the Block, but it's also the game where I'm not afraid to make a few mistakes and be bold and try this thing out. Because my White Whale is the baseball game that I've been working on through 8 iterations, 8 completely different game systems, and I've finally settled on one that I feel like really works. But
is it
the bad
Champions?
hack will be, it is so Champions. You guys don't even know how good it is. No, it's a percentile-based system. No, it's not. But yeah, the baseball game will be the next thing that I publish.
You mean it's not about analyzing stats and Moneyball?
It's based on gangbusters.
Exactly.
Oof! Oh boy!
Oh man!
Oh, not
Oh man!
Gangbusters. Oof.
All right, me before we go into the after show.
Yes.
So I went to a game cafe on Saturday, and it was a lot of fun. So I've never been to a board game cafe before. It's a new experience for me. So it's called Gather and Game. It's in Buffalo, New York. It's down on Grant Street, which is this classically not been a great part of town, but it is now coming around. A lot of things in Buffalo are coming around.
Isn't it on Grant, close to the college?
It's close to Upstate, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's down by this really lovely breakfast brunch place called Sweetness 7, and there's a book.
Oh shit! I know where
It's
7
it's 3 storefronts down from that.
Okay, so that's not far from the Italian deli.
Correct. It's not far from there either.
Crucio's.
And the Gypsy Parlor's right there too, which is a really nice
making me
bar and restaurant and location for interesting events. I went to a poetry slam there once.
Nice.
So it's a board game cafe. It's really nice. The floor is concrete still. They've fixed up a whole bunch of it, but it's in this storefront that was dilapidated at some point probably. But there's 160 board games on this wall. You can pay $3 and play games all day.
That's awesome.
Whatever you want. So I got to try out the Arkham Horror Living card game with Sean Gilgore, and then we played Tiny Towns, which is a really fun, I would call gateway game. It could be if your people played some board games like Catan and Ticket to Ride. I think this is the next good step. It could be a first step if people are okay with board games, they like playing board games. But if there are people who don't normally play board games, this is a good one. I like it a lot because you get a board. It's got 4x4 squares. There's 5 different resources. Everyone on your turn, you call out a resource, and everybody takes one of those cubes and puts it on their board. And the point is, there's a bunch of cards in the middle that have configurations of cubes on them, and you're trying to put the cubes in a configuration so that you can build these buildings. And these buildings score you victory points and have combination effects. But once you build a building, it sits there in one of those squares that you put in, so it's in the way then.
Oh, cool.
So you have to build around it until everybody's boards are all full. So it plays in about 30 minutes. It's a lot of fun. It's real quick. It's the kind of games that I really like to play because then I could play them with my friends when we have board game lunches and things like that.
Yeah.
We do that a lot. It's not a meaty game. It's not like playing Terraforming Mars, which is now a game that I need to own, or Puerto Rico.
Good luck.
No, it's back in print.
Oh, is it?
Kickstarter.
Did it? Okay.
Yeah, so you can pick a copy up now for $50 on Amazon.
Oh, that's not bad.
But the place, Gathering Game, real nice. It's the most enjoyable board gaming experience I've had in the city because I went in there and I talked to the people that were there, and these people, while I was sitting there, I saw employees going through the games to learn them so they could teach them, which I've never seen in any other game store in this town.
That's awesome.
And talking to the owner and a couple of the other people there, they all actually knew board games.
No, it's
and
sweet.
it's nice to be able to talk about the thing that I love with people who actually know about the thing that I love when they own the store.
So do you need to bring Mo there during QCC?
I mean,
I feel like Mo needs to just come in and ring the bell.
Yeah,
like
right.
bless them. Like it'll ward off evil spirits. Mo just comes in, ding, like all evil spirits go away. By the way, if you ever are hungry, I don't know if that place serves food or not, but if it doesn't serve food, walk next door to Gruccio's, the
I know
Italian market.
Gruccio's. I've been there a number of times.
Oof, that's
That's pretty much where most of the restaurants in town get their fresh fruit from.
yeah, their their deli sandwiches.
Yeah,
oh,
they're pretty good
to die for.
because they get their stuff shipped in from the farms.
Yeah.
That's why it's so good. Okay, that's me. So
Coolness.
that's our show.
Yep.
We're gonna do some Patreon shoutouts, then
Yep.
we're gonna get out of here. All right, Patreon shoutouts. Thank you so much for being our patrons, everybody, by the way. Donahue McCarthy, Nate Brooms, Evil Rich, John Just John, Jean Laura Bear, who I'm actually doing some work for right now.
Nice.
Steve Bissonette, the Space Rhino, I hope the Space Hamster is doing okay. Ryan Bolter, Chelsea Clark, Robert Day, Matthew Pezzarelli, and Dan Simons.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for listening.
If you are free on Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. the Queen's time, come join us live on Twitch where you can chat with other listeners in the chat room for life and ask us some questions.
You know, if you can't make it to this live show and you're listening to this on the podcast, you should check out this podcast every week. And, other podcasts in the network, such as Down with D&D, Bone Stone Obsidian, Pandas Talking Games, Cypher Speak with Darcy and Troy, The Gnomecast, the Wednesday Evening Podcast All-Stars, Zhang Yu Hustle, She's a Super Geek, and Bonus Experience. You can and should also check out our sibling podcasts, Tabletop Bellhop, The Knights of the Night, and The Always Amazing Gaming and BS. And, you should probably also listen to Plus One Forward.
Hell
It
yeah.
still exists, I imagine, right? It's
Yeah.
been a
You
while
guys are
since
still
I've listened
recording,
to it.
right?
Yeah. Self-support sounds fun.
Yeah.
Listen to that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right?
They're still making PBTA games, right?
Yeah, they're still
that's a
making
thing,
them.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, next episode's going to be on Demigod PBTA.
No, there you go.
There you go.
Now you can find out about that game that we just have
Mhm.
talked about.
After you have run out of all your spark and before you hit the streets to go on patrol, leave us some feedback. You can reach us directly via email, mmp@misdirectedmark.com. Check out our Facebook group. Hit us up on Twitter. The show, the network, is at
Throw
Mr.
something at you. I'm gonna let the overlords of Misdirected Mark come down and smite you for not
Not pushing the Facebook group
for
hard
just
enough.
being like so lukewarm about it. This is not what we do here.
I'm going to get called in by the bosses.
Positive.
Fine, I'm going to get called in. Check out our Facebook group. Ting. And hit us up on Twitter. The show, the network, is at Misdirected Mark. He's at Robert M. Everson. He's at The Light 101. I'm DNA Phil and Rich.
I'm at Orklord, ORKLORD.
Hey, real quick, where else can we find you on the internet?
You can find me at gauntlet-rpg.com, where I run at least 2 games a week.
Okay.
Awesome.
Cool. Awesome.
Awesome.
All right. If you like what we do here and on the other shows in the Misdirected Mark Network, you can support our Patreon campaigns. MMP, Down with D&D, and Pandas Talking Games are at patreon.com/MMP. She's a Super Geek is at patreon.com/SassGeek. Zhang Hustle is at patreon.com/Zhang Hustle. And last but certainly not least, Bonus Experience is at patreon.com/Bonus Experience. Patrons of MMP, Down with D&D, and Pandas Talking Games get access to the after show, pre-production show notes, musical parodies, the Pandas Talking Games bonus outtakes, and other special releases.
Well, this has been a Misdirected Mark production, which is, of course, the media arm of Encoded Designs. Thank you so much, Rich, for being on the show this week. We greatly enjoyed having you here.
Good luck on the Kickstarter.
Thank you guys so much.
Which, by the way, real
It's
quick,
great
the
being here.
Kickstarter is now at up to 115 backers, $2,083.
Yay, over $2,000. Well, with that,
Thanks, you guys.
yeah, no problem. A power-fisted mic drop.
We out. Charging up the chi, charging up the chi, charging up the chi.